CBS 6 News starts now.
Tonight, state bail reform falling out of favor with most New Yorkers now against it. What's changed in the 3 years since it passed?
Crisis in the classroom. Students may be on break, but police and educators are hard at work. The state law one local principal says is essential for keeping kids physically and mentally safe.
Plus, preparing for a full-blown crisis in Eastern Europe.
These are totally defensive moves on our part. We have no intention of fighting Russia.
The severe sanctions handed down by the White House and where the president wants U.S. troops deployed.
But first tonight, reforming bail reform. That's what a majority of New Yorkers want to see happen.
Yeah, a new Siena poll just out found a significant majority of voters say they support tightening the state's controversial bail laws. CBS 6's Brianna Supardi joins us. She's live outside the state capitol in Albany for us tonight. And Brianna, exactly what changes in the laws do people want to see here?
Well, the poll found that 65% of New York voters favor changing the 2019 bail law to give judges more discretion, not necessarily on bail, but on giving judges the ability to decide whether they should take dangerous offenders off the streets. Amid a rise in violence across the state, a new Siena poll shows a sizable amount of New Yorkers want lawmakers to revisit the state's controversial bail reform laws. Passed in 2019 and taking effect in January 2020, the law eliminated cash bail for most misdemeanor and nonviolent felony charges. It also requires judges to consider a person's ability to pay in cases where bail is set. However, since then, the law has been a contentious topic, with some saying it's to blame for a rise in crime in the state. One of those sounding the alarm is the Rensselaer County District Attorney.
It became very dangerous that certain people could buy their way out of jail pretrial and others could not. So in that sense, I am glad that that standard is no longer in play in New York State, but really at the core of it is we need to revest judges with the opportunity to evaluate the person in front of them.
While Donnelly believes the 2019 bail reform has not accomplished what it set out to do, Democratic Assemblywoman Latrice Walker disagrees.
Our system of criminal justice pretrial was a two-tier system. There was some individuals who could afford to pay bail and be released in order to defend in their cases, and then others languished behind bars.
Walker was the lead sponsor of the bill and disagrees with the belief that the bail law is fueling repeat offenders.
So you do not get an opportunity to be released under bail reform without cash bail, commit another crime, and then think that you have the benefit of bail reform again. That's just wrong.
I spoke with attorney Paul Harding to get his legal analysis. Do you think it accomplished what it sought out to do?
Well, I think the spirit of the bail reform, that was a good spirit. It was looking at folks who didn't have the economics to kind of get out of the situation. I think the issue is that they've lost that ability, and the public has lost confidence in the ability for the court system to keep dangerous people behind bars.
Assemblymember Latrice Walker says that right now there's no plans to amend the current bail laws, adding that they don't have enough data to support claims that the bail reform laws do not work. Live in Albany, Brianna Supardi, CBS 6 News.
All right, Brianna, thanks very much. Well, the one person with a big stake in the outcome who has yet to commit one way or the other to bail reform is Governor Kathy Hochul. She made headlines at the State of the State and during her budget proposal for not bringing it up. She told reporters last month she was willing to discuss changes to bail reform, but then added she would not cave to pressure. But the governor is under pressure to make changes to the state's bail reform. New York City Mayor Eric Adams called for change after 2 New York City police officers were shot and killed in January after answering a domestic violence call, saying, quote, "We have become an ocean of violence." Adams himself is a former cop. Republican lawmakers have been pushing for changes to the bail laws as well. State Senator Tom O'Mara wants to repeal the reform, saying that Democrats have sent a message to criminals that they're only going to get a slap on the wrist. Now, Hochul has said that she would be willing to discuss adjustments to bail reform, but contends that Republicans have taken up the cause for political reasons. Even if she wanted to make changes, she would have to get the legislature to go along with her, and that could be a challenge since the leaders of both houses of the legislature have indicated they do not support the idea. You can head to our website, CBS6Albany.com, for more on bail reform and find out how it's impacting people right here in our area.
Crisis in the classroom with many students on break this week. A first-of-its-kind conference in Saratoga Springs is bringing law enforcement and educators together as they work to stop rising fights and violence. New tonight, we're hearing from a local high school principal about it. The CPAS conference has featured several speakers, one of them Ballston Spa High Principal John Leo Duca. He says his presentation to the statewide attendees included the same training practices they give their staff. He says building relationships with students and parents is key so that both feel comfortable coming to him or teachers with concerns. Duca says being able to hear from other educators and law enforcement from around New York will help their policies going forward.
It was a really nice collaborative effort. I learned some things from other districts across the state. We'll meet early next week and just kind of debrief and kind of put all our thoughts together and see what we've picked up and see how we want to improve things here. We're always looking to improve, here at the high school at Ballston Spa.
And the principal also talked about the state's Dignity for All Students Act and how essential that's been to their rules. Signed into law in 2010, it protects students from discrimination, harassment, and bullying, both in person and now also on social media. The law also makes schools responsible for reporting data on the incidents.
And in the wake of recent violence in so many of our Capital Region schools, one member of Congress is creating a new portal to let parents report the challenges that their kids are facing. North Country Republican Elise Stefanik sits on the Education and Labor Committee in Washington. She tells CBS 6 she started that resource portal to let parents share how the effects of the pandemic have affected their kids in the classroom. One issue that Stefanik is especially concerned about, she says, is the school mask mandate. She says letting parents weigh in will help bring those issues to light.
Our superintendents and local teachers have been very focused on serving the student, making sure that the schools remain open as much as possible and raising concerns with the governor and what's happening from New York State Department of Ed. But in certain cases, when there are issues in the school districts, we want to hear from parents.
Stefanik adds that she is supporting the Parents' Bill of Rights, which is a proposed law which would give parents more supervision over their child's curriculum. Tonight, Saratoga Springs police are investigating a string of 4 robberies in 3 days. Police say these 4 businesses were robbed between Saturday and Monday, all, as you see, within walking distance of each other. The businesses are the Super Smoke and Save, Extra Mart, I Love New York Pizza, and Post Time Wine and Spirits. Police say in each of the cases, a man came into the store demanding cash. They say he did not use any weapons and no one was hurt. Now, based on the time frame and their descriptions of the man, police say they think the robberies are likely related. And Saratoga Springs police are now asking anyone who might have information about the incidents to give them a call.
A woman is facing serious charges in Half Moon after police say she hit a stopped state trooper's car while drinking and driving. State police say it happened here in the middle of the night on Monday at the intersection of Vischer Ferry and Crescent Roads. Officials say a state police cruiser with 2 troopers inside was hit from behind by that vehicle. When talking to the driver of that car, troopers said they could smell alcohol on her breath. That driver, they say, is 45-year-old Allison Bechtold of Albany. Bechtold took a sobriety test that registered a BAC of .19, more than twice the legal limit. She was arrested and charged with DWI and is set to appear in Half Moon Town Court next week. Thankfully, no one was hurt. And New York will soon be the first state in the country with its own center to fight cyber threats. Governor Kathy Hochul announcing those plans today in Brooklyn alongside top officials from all over New York, including representatives from the Capital Region. This center will share resources, collect data, and help cities build up their cybersecurity together.
The local governments, our cities and our counties, they're connected to our state operations. So an attack on them could lead to a larger attack and disruption of service from the state as well. We know New York State, New York City, we are always going to be in the line of sight with the terrorists and those who want to disrupt our way of life.
The governor was joined by mayors of all major New York cities, including Mayor Kathy Sheehan, of course, from Albany. Mayor Sheehan applauded the governor tonight, writing, quote, as the victim of a successful ransomware attack in 2019, the city of Albany knows full well the impact this cybersecurity threat can have on the systems that serve our residents. Thankfully, New York State was there for us. when it mattered most. Now we will proactively partner within the Joint Security Operations Center to help identify and respond to cyber security threats. That's the end of the quote from Mayor Sheehan, who says the capital city will be ready to respond to its own threats while also helping other cities and organizations in New York.
Tonight, local lawmakers weigh in on the escalating situation in Ukraine, plus how sanctions against Russia could hurt Americans in the pocketbook and at the pump.
And the steady rain now tapering down to showers. We've got gusty wind, very mild temperatures, at least for now. That, of course, is going to change, and change enough to set the stage for a snowstorm late in the week. Back with a look at that for you coming up after the break.
CBS 6 News starts now with breaking news.
And that breaking news, Russia is now invading Ukraine. Just a short time ago, President Vladimir Putin ordered a military operation in the eastern part of the country that is now underway.
And Putin is warning that if other countries interfere, there will be, quote, consequences they've never seen. At the same time, the Biden administration says it will, quote, hold Russia accountable for this invasion. President Biden issuing the statement a short time after the news of the invasion broke. The president saying, quote, the prayers of the entire world are with the people of Ukraine tonight as they suffer an unprovoked and unjustified attack by Russian military forces. The president adding Russia alone is responsible for the death and destruction this attack will bring. And the president said he'll be meeting with his G7 counterparts tomorrow before addressing Americans on what comes next.
We'll give you a live look right now from Kiev, Ukraine's capital city, where Europe's top traffic authority is now urgently telling airlines and other civilian flights to stay far away from Ukrainian airspace to protect against airstrikes. A CNN correspondent on the scene tweeted out just a few minutes ago that he was, quote, hearing really loud sounds of what could be longer-range missile launches in Russia. And Senator Marco Rubio, the vice chair of the Intelligence Committee, has just tweeted out that those launches are now underway toward predetermined sites in Ukraine. CBS's Deborah Alfarone is bringing us a special report right now with the latest details. New tonight, another legal blow to former President Donald Trump. That's as civil lawsuits against him for allegedly inciting the January 6th riots will now move forward. A federal judge is dismissing the former president's request to drop those 3 lawsuits, which are coming from Democratic members of Congress and Capitol Police officers. The judge's ruling was 112 pages long. It says evidence suggests the former president assembled the crowd and told rioters to march on the Capitol, knowing the crowd was probably violent. The ruling could potentially hold Trump liable for his supporters' conduct that day. No word yet on if or when those cases could go to trial.
We are looking live tonight at the White House, where just hours ago, President Joe Biden addressed the nation on a possible Russian attack on Ukraine. When asked if he thought Russian President Vladimir Putin has made up his mind about invading, this was President Biden's response.
As of this moment, I'm convinced he's made the decision. We have reason to believe that. Make no mistake, if Russia pursues its plans, it will be responsible for a catastrophic and needless war of choice.
The president tonight vowing to issue strong sanctions against Russia if it does invade, but he said the U.S. will not put American soldiers on the ground in Ukraine. This comes as tensions are rising in that country. Air raid sirens fill the air in parts of eastern Ukraine today as people are evacuating. U.S. officials have warned the simmering conflict here could be the spark for a Russian attack.
In Canada, more than 70 people are now arrested tonight after weeks of trucker protests against COVID-19 restrictions. We'll show you the scene in Ottawa, the country's capital, tonight as hundreds of police officers are arresting those protesters and even towing their trucks. Those arrested include at least 4 of the leaders of the self-described Freedom Convoy. It's one of the biggest police enforcement actions in Canadian history. The Associated Press reports at least 1 officer was hurt tonight, although no word on any protester injuries at this time. Well, right now the weather has calmed down a bit, but Chief Meteorologist Steve LaPointe is looking at another round of high wind tomorrow and snow squalls. And he is timing it for you right after this word from our sponsor.
Good evening. Tonight we continue to follow the shocking story of a missing girl found alive more than 2 years after she vanished. She was found hidden under a staircase in Saugerties.
Her biological parents, who did not have custody of her along with her grandfather, are all facing charges in the case. 6-year-old Paisley Schultes is healthy and reunited with her legal guardian, but there are still many outstanding questions tonight in what's really been a shocking case. Our team is following all angles of the story right now, with CBS 6's Leanne DeRosa and Alora Lagarde standing by with the latest. We first go to Leanne, who's been following the developments all day long. Leanne, what can you tell us?